Okay, welcome to part 3 of my little tab bound book. If you didn't watch part 1 or part 2, you can go watch those and then finish this one if you want. But I'm just continuing on. So the page on the left was the back side of that file folder. And so the next page is going to be a facing page, and it is still part of the file folders, file cards from Tim Holtz, and it is a pocket. And so that's going to be the facing page of it. So I want those two pages to go together. So I'm going to kind of do very similar things. I'm dipping it in the faded blue jean, giving it a dry, doing some splatter. And then splattering some vintage photo. Heavy in some spots, light in others. I didn't like that spot that I created, so I just kind of do some splatters out over top of it and it kind of goes away. And I'm having a little medallion or coin. It's a circle that I've cut on my Cricut out of some Bristol Smooth mixed media paper, and that's gonna go on this page. And so I'm just kind of putting some stamping on it, and I'll also be inking it similar to the back. But this is also the same stamp I used on the left hand side. Some grid marks, and I'm using potting soil from the Archival Inks. So I cut that circle out with my Cricut, but you can get a circle any way you want. And so I'm stamping onto the circle. Now I've got different ones. I think these are all from Eccentric, but it's possible one of them's from Field Notes. And the last 3 stamps I did with black stays on ink. So again, I'm gonna do some smooshing in the faded blue jeans. And then some splatters with vintage photo. And give it a try. And that's going to go on top, but two things have to happen. I think there needs to be some sort of barrier between the circle and the bottom. And I use this paper on the pocket, the first pocket I did, and I think it'll be perfect to kind of bring that back and have that be a barrier between the two. And I need a butterfly on this page, which I'm going to use that transparency one or transparent one. And of course I'm going to add a little bit of distressing to this piece before it goes down. And to hold that down, I'm going to use a piece of the inked tape I've made. I add a couple pieces. And at some point I'm going to add them to the facing page too, but maybe after I'm done with this one. And the other thing too is that the paper was not manila like the backs of those, so I had to just add a little bit of vintage photo to kind of darken up the circle. And I'm going to add one of those vintage stickers, a couple pieces of ephemera, and that was just the little scrap I peeled off the edge, and I'm just going to flip it over and put the back side up for a little bit of variation. And I am going to use that little label down there. I'm just going to stamp a little portion of a stamp on there. Now, that was a pocket card, so now I have to put something in the pocket, And so I took my Cricut and cut a tag that would, I adjusted the size and everything so I could have it go into that pocket. I'll give it a dry. And now I'm going to add some stenciling. So I need to choose a stencil. I think that's the one. And I'm going to add, or not stenciling, I'm going to add some texture paste through a stencil. And I'm going to use Crackle paste. And I'm not doing the whole thing, just doing some of it. And I always have a tub of water here, so that stencil went straight into the tub. There's a couple little pieces that were beyond where I wanted the texture paste, so I just scraped those off. And I'm gonna set this to dry on the side here. I found another little piece of ephemera with some red on it that I'm just gonna stick up there. And then this is my last spread. So I have the back side of the tag, I have the back side of the pocket, and then the front side of the back cover. And so I'm going to take the back side of the pocket and the front side of the back cover, and I'm going to add some scrapbook paper. And I liked this one back here because it kind of just looked ledger-y and like it'd be from an old ledger. And I cut it down to size. And then I also do the other side. These are going to be facing pages, or the front of the back cover. These are going to be facing pages, so I want them to go together. You get a glimpse of the back cover right there, and it looks like it could possibly be the back of a book. So I chose that because it was the right size, and I thought it just kind of looks fitting to be the back page, and I don't do anything to it. I just thought it looked really cool on its own. So I'm going to ink these up. And again, the tag is white, so I don't want it to be white. And so I give it some antique linen. I put the paper down just so I don't get fingerprints all over the ink or all over the tag. Buff up the edges. And I'm going to use this entomology. Collage tissue, and I had a well, on the tag I'm going to put this, I think it's some sort of fly or some flying bug. Looks kind of like a fly to me. So again, I smoosh it into Vintage Photo. I think it's good when you're doing a book like this that you do have repetition so that every page does not look like a brand new, like it's not of the same book. So even though I'm doing different methods, I'm tying it together with certain things like the butterflies, like a dash of red, the blue. So I'm keeping it uniform in that way, but still adding different different methods and different ideas on it. And I'm using my catalyst wedge to just remove any excess and to kind of smooth it out as much as possible. Give it a dry. I'm going to add some ribbon. This is my rayon seam ribbon, seam binding, and I'm just taking a couple pieces and I'm going to use the leftover Vintage Photo. I'm going to add some because I'll need more than that, and then I'm using some spray of antique linen and I just smoosh it around, kind of just like I'm cleaning up my area. and then dry it up. And I fold them in half with a little loop, and so in that loop I pull the strands and kind of give them a little tug, not a big tug because you don't want to rip the hole. I don't have them reinforced at all. So the tag is done, and I'm gonna go out butterflies in a big way. I've had this scrap of that same collage tissue paper, and I just haven't figured out where to use it. I had considered that blue paper, but I think I'm going to use this butterfly just for like in your face. It's a butterfly book. Okay, it's not really a butterfly book, but it speaks to butterflies on every page. So I have this text. It's kind of random text. You really can't read it. And it's my favorite one. I have some other text ones, but this is my favorite. I like the size because you can just plop it down. And I like the size of the font. Just perfect. And I can just press it down anywhere on there. I think that was potting soil I was using. Maybe Pebble Beach. I'm not for sure. So I'm also going to add some stamping with that date stamp. And that is potting soil. So the other one I think was Pebble Beach. And so I'm just going to put this across both sides, and I don't want it to be centered down the body. So I do put a little more of the body on one side versus the other. And then add more collage medium. Getting real close to need to go into my new jar of collage medium. And just making sure all the edges and trim that off. More collage medium on the other side. Trim and dry. And that's how it looks together. And I'm going to do some embossing. And I have this huge stamp. It's called Glorious Garden. And so I'm going to have it go across both sides. down as far as I can without going over any of the butterfly. And I am going to emboss with some speckled egg. And you have to kind of watch to make sure that your embossing hasn't stuck to somewhere else, because I mean I did just put Collage medium down on there, so it could be slightly wet. And now I'm going to emboss it. So I emboss with my heat tool. My tag, I actually reversed the order so that the tissue collage is on the other side and the Crackle paste is on this side, and then that is the back. So all the pages are done. Now it just has to be assembled. I'm using this little clip here to keep my folder page closed and add a little something. And I'm using Tim Holtz linen tape. And there's one that looks like it's like a part of a ledger. And this tape is really thick. I started to actually use it at this thickness and it was just too much. So I started cutting it thinner. And I didn't care if it was not consistent. And I actually start using just the width of the tape instead of the whole thing. Now there's not much room here on the front to get my tape on, and maybe next time I'd see about attaching these tabs prior to finishing that page. But you're putting top, bottom, middle, and then here I messed up because I didn't add my tape tabs to this one before I folded them over. So you'll see me have to kind of sneak them in there. But I realize I have too much tape, and so I'm trimming them down, folding them over. And then this one I didn't put the tape on it before I attached it, so I need to do that. So now I'm just cutting it this way because I think it's plenty long enough to do it that way. And I'm attaching this after the fact. I should have done it before I attached it to the front. But I'm just slipping it through the hole, attaching it to the front, and then making sure it's still there. Okay, so then I'm going to do it right this time. I'm going to attach my tabs and this one gets 3 again. I flip that over, fold the 2 from the previous one back. Now since this one coming up is the last one, I don't have to put any on that one because it's just going to get the 3 from before. Yay! And that's it. I'm going to do a little flip through just so you can see it from start to finish. Okay, it's a front. First spread. Remove my little clip. Pull out my pocket insert. It's the next spread. And then here's the pocket for here. And then the last spread. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it. It was a little daunting to think about it, but got it done. It took 3 episodes to film it and they're kind of long, so sorry about that. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed, please do. If you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up. And otherwise, have a great day.